The ones who are going to be here in person. So one of them. If you do it in the recently, that's instead. Personal thing, very well. Okay. Side, that's been very.
Let me answer.
Okay. Okay. We'll get my instrument, please. Right, so we'll have to stick to I was just, yes, there are some. Yeah, I'm excited, yeah. Just, it's like, you look at the wall.
Hello, how are you? Good to see you in person.
Good to see you.
You ready?
Yes.
We certainly.
Are you?
Things like that. And it just depends on where you're at. But they're absolutely not as far, not that's more like that one's more. But.
You were trying to speak into.
Dr. Lee? Dr. Lee on Zoom, can you hear us okay?
Thanks.
Yes, I can. I had to turn off mute. Yes, I can. Very good. Thank you so much.
And we can hear you too. Thank you.
Great.
Turn it down one, just so that the people can see me. Okay. On. Like that home. Okay, good. Great, so we have 6, great. Let me just move down. Okay. Okay, it is 9:02 a.m. We are going to officially get started and call the meeting to order. My name is Beth Bray. I'm the chair of the Indiana Charter School Board. I am joined by 5 other board members who we will introduce shortly. We have 4 schools that we're going to be discussing today. The way that we are going to do this is we are going to start with Indy STEAM Academy. We will ask the staff to make a recommendation. We will ask the school to make a presentation, and then we will offer a very short window of public comment. We're going to end it at 10 minutes. We have 4 schools to get through today, and unfortunately, we have to leave this room by 11 a.m. So we want to make sure we have time to get to each of the 4 items of business. So therefore, we will only have 10 minutes of public comment. We will end with staff updates and closing remarks, but our goal is to be finished by 11 a.m. because we lose this room at that time. So first item of business, the board has received the minutes from the December 12th meeting. I have to take attendance first, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
Yeah.
because we have virtual participation, I need to go ahead and take a verbal roll call. So I'm going to go through the list of board members. Please just confirm your attendance by saying here. First, board member Kramer.
Here.
Thank you. Board member Hawkins.
Here.
Board member Jositis.
Here.
Board member Schultz.
Here.
Board member Green.
Here.
Okay, and we know that board member Austin is unable to attend today. Okay, so the board has received the December minutes. I would welcome a motion to accept the minutes as written.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Great. Fantastic. And because we are virtual, I have to do a roll call vote, as you all know. So let me go through and ask individually. The question is, do you approve the minutes as written? Board member Kramer.
Yes.
Okay. Board member Hawkins.
Yes.
Board member Jositis.
Yes.
Board member Schultz.
Yes.
And board member Green.
Yes.
I'm also a yes. With that, the minutes are approved. We will turn it over now to James Bentley, who is the Executive Director of Indiana Charter School Board, to present staff recommendations regarding Indy STEAM Academy.
Hello. You all hear me? Dr. Lee, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Bentley, yes, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I wish we were here under happier circumstances. As you've heard me say many times, the absolute worst part of this job is talking about closing or non-renewing a school. It is something that we try not to do. Typically, it's a long process. We spend every amount of energy and technical support and all of this to try to prevent this from happening. Sometimes it's inevitable. This is a case where Indy STEAM was authorized in 2019, took a year gap and then opened with board approval, and then opened in fall of 21. As you know, we have an accountability system. It is the framework upon which all of our sort of the way that we overview schools is based. It's got 3 sections: academic performance, financial performance, stability, and the third is like organizational and operational compliance. I have always said that these are like 3 legs of a tripod. We almost always are talking about academic performance or financial because those are the 2 big shinies that you can easily say, well, they're, enrollments like this, and so their, budget is below or whatever, or academic performance, et cetera, although that has been very difficult lately due to all the changes in our standards and testing and all of that. But the third leg is no less important, particularly when it starts to impact the other 2. And unfortunately, Indy STEAM has had some difficulties with compliance and reporting over the years. Normally, these are things, as Anna could attest to, when you're a first-year school leader, these things are tough. You're trying to stand up a school, and then you've got all these bureaucratic responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes it's hard to get the processes in place. So we tend to give first-year schools a little bit of grace with that, try to help them out as much as we can. And we've already developed systems that we try to be as non-burdensome as possible. Like, we have statutory obligations to collect certain things. We years ago went through a revamp to try to minimize to the bare minimum that we're required to perform our statutory duties. However, there are still things that we're required to receive from schools, primarily because they are directly tied to our ability to hold the school accountable. Financial accountability is probably the most critical one of those because we get the academic data from other sources. But without financial reports, audits, those kinds of things, we have no idea how a school is doing financially. We can make assumptions based on enrollment, et cetera, but it is extremely difficult to really comprehend how a school is spending funds, what they're spending funds on, and whether they have enough funds, right? Based on payroll and for other supports in order to implement their academic program. Because in the beginning, when you authorize a school, you are saying, here's your budget, here's your academic program. Our expectation is you will implement your academic program with fidelity with this budget. So as time went by, and you can see some of the details in the document that I provided to you, it became apparent that there were some structural changes needed at the school. Specifically, there needed to be more support at the administrative level because, and I believe I can say this, that the school leader was trying to do too much. And again, as some here may be able to tell you, sometimes that can come back and bite you in the butt because it's just simply too much for one person to do. So we spoke to the board at the time, multiple times about this and said, look, this is serious. We put them on a corrective action plan, literally their first year, to try to highlight the seriousness of this, that these were structural problems, that they needed to be fixed because we were unable to do our job without their help in this area. Nothing really changed. We moved into the second year, again, a little bit of grace in first year. The problem sort of continued. continue to have these conversations with their board chair, their board, to try to say, look, you guys need to make some changes. With these corrective action plans, they're formal actions that we take with schools. We do them very rarely. I don't know how many we've done in our life, 5, 4, not very many. They're really drastic. And they're intended to highlight the critical nature of the actions that we're requesting. You need to make these changes or you could lose your charter. I think we've said those words probably 3 or 4 times. I have at least 3 or 4 written emails and documents where we've said, you need to make these changes or it could result in the loss of your charter. So I think we did what we could do as far as notifying the schools to the critical nature of these compliance matters. And so we got through the first year, second year, similar issues. The school, fortunately, their enrollment increased drastically from 76 to like 170 or something. It went way up. So they had a financial cushion. So even though we weren't getting any of the financial reports, and we still hadn't gotten the audit for the first year, they're due a year in arrears, and we were now 2 years. I think we finally got the audit for 21, or was it 21 or 22? 22 in 24. So it was 2 years, it was a year late. So by around Christmas of that second year, we had no idea whether the school could stay open. Like we had no insight into its finances whatsoever. And we started to get a little concerned, obviously, because now it's a year and a half, been having these problems since day one. We don't know how the school is doing financially. Given other things that have happened in the city recently with Him by Her, for example, we keep getting told as authorizers that why aren't we catching these things? Like, why aren't we stopping these things from happening? And the reason is that sometimes it's just because it's difficult. The other times it's because you don't have the information. So literally 2 days before Christmas, I believe, we reached out and said, you have to send us whatever financial documents you have. Like, I can't go to Christmas not knowing whether you guys are financially viable, not knowing whether you guys are bankrupt. Like, I have no idea. And so that process sort of started maybe elevating the difficulties that we were going through. This continued through the year. And I will say that we had conversations internally about whether we should close the school after 23. I made the decision not to. It was on me. I decided that we should let the school continue because I still felt that it could be fixed, that we could keep working with a little more staff, a little more training. We could fix these sort of compliance issues that were snowballing. And they had extra money, and they were having support from Charter School Capital, which is now called the GROW Fund, I think. Is that right? GROW Fund? GROW Schools, who were, lending them some money. So they were financially, we finally figured out by the end of year 2 that they were sort of financially stable. So we move into year 3, and this is really when things started to go south. It starts off with, the way schools are funded, and particularly, and this is particularly critical for smaller or newer schools. You estimate how many students you're going to have, and then you get paid that much for the first until you get your first count date. So if your estimate is off, it can be bad. I mean, if it's under, then you're underfunded. If it's over, then you're overfunded, and you actually have to give money back to DOE. Well, in this case, they were overfunded by 25 students or so, which was a significant amount of money, 25% of the budget, roughly. So that was already put us on notice that there may be some issues that we needed to keep watching. But then we started to get notices from DOE of other compliance matters, which again, I'm not going to go over matter by matter, but they're listed in the report. Most concerning about those matters, or some of them were directly related to reimbursement of federal funds that in some cases the school had already been awarded, but had either lost or were in danger of losing for compliance reasons. This is what I mean by saying that the compliance stuff matters a lot, not just to us to hold schools accountable, but also it starts to impact the school's ability to function. Because if you're if you're losing federal funding that you have already entitled to because of failure to comply, that's it. I mean, that's almost inexcusable, I'm sorry to say, because that's money that you're entitled to. And so we started to work through those, that we kind of went into panic mode. DOE has been great throughout all of this. We've worked very closely with DOE to try to figure out ways to get things fixed and to, come into compliance with, primarily with the financial, just so we could make sure that the school received the money to which it was entitled before it got lost. And we have a lot to thank them for, because they reached out to us. We wouldn't have known that a lot of this stuff was happening if DOE had not reached out to us, because we weren't getting the information from the school. So at any rate, on top of all this, and I'll stop soon because again, I don't want to belabor the point. In around February of this year, right in the middle of all of this, us scrambling to try to recoup this money, the board, all the members of their board resigned, except for one. Dr. Lee, who's on the call up there, was the only board member from the time before who stayed on the board. And thank goodness she did, because if she didn't, then the school probably would have had to close immediately, because they wouldn't have had a board at all. And you can't just reconstitute a board out of nothing. Fortunately, she stayed and was able to get some folks to come on and help her. And when I had a call with her, this was on Valentine's Day, mind you, Dr. Lee and I spoke, and I told her at the time, first of all, thank you so much for doing this, for doing the right thing, for staying, because, it's not about you as a board member. Now it's about the kids in the school, and they need you. And I told her our number one priority right now is to make sure the school can finish the school year, because at the time we still didn't know if the school could finish the school year because of the lack of financial funding. Dr. Lee has worked tirelessly with us. Like I said, I have this board has been great, the new board. I do have serious problems with the previous board, both in the way that they managed the school and also in the way that they just all resigned when it got difficult, which I have no respect for. And I have no problem saying that in a public setting. So we ended up trying to work through this. We delivered to the school what's called a show cause letter, which is a legal sort of formality when you're going to close a school pre-renewal, where you basically lay out all of the deficiencies. Now, these are all deficiencies that had been heavily discussed in email and in person for months and months and months. We just put them all in one document, provided them to the board, basically said you have 15 business days to respond, to come up with a plan to try to rectify all these deficiencies. But I will say that, that was a really hard task we were giving them. I'm not sure it would have been at that point, starting from ground zero, because to that point, nothing had really changed yet. And this is 2.5 years of us trying to get something to change. That it would have been very difficult to come up with a plan that actually would have been feasible. And the plan that they presented us was not feasible. And this brings me to the last issue. Fundamentally, this is about compliance. It's about reporting. It's about just having an organizational structure that's functional, but it's also about funding. It's about financial stability. The plan was not feasible primarily because it was a good plan. A lot of parts of it were great, way too expensive. There was no way that they could have afforded to even do half of the things in the plan, primarily because their enrollment has gone down a little bit more. It's down to 160. But one of the bigger components, and this is something that we've been talking about for years, ESSER funding runs out at the end of this year. So their budget as presented to us, and they can maybe give a little more context, but to our understanding, the budget as presented to us was only penciling in because of the ESSER funds. And that if we tried to project the same budget forward, just the same straight budget without any of the changes required by the plan, that take away the ESSER funds, it would have been in the deficit. And that's without any of the additions. So with all of those things, again, this is not something we do lightly. It's been horribly traumatic and difficult. We hate to do this, but we also have an obligation, as I said, we get beat up when things go wrong, and then we get beat up when we try to do our jobs. And I understand that this has an outsized impact on families and students. We are absolutely aware of that, but it is our job to make sure that these schools are held accountable, to make sure that they are actually functioning in a way that they're meant to function under the law, even when it's hard. So with that, I know I talked a little over my time, and I asked that maybe you give them a few extra minutes for that. But, I feel like I can't gloss over how serious this is and how seriously we take the decision.
Thank you very much, James. Board members, I'm going to hold questions for James until the end. So if you will take note of any questions that you might have for the staff, hold those until the end. We will shift that now and allow the school representative to come up and make a presentation. We are limiting it to 8 to 10 minutes so that we do have ample time for public comment. So I would ask whomever is representing the school, if you would like to come up and make any comments or presentation, please do so now. And we will allow 10 minutes for this.
To the
And
chair.
would you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, I'm
James?
sorry. Yes, I was getting ready to. Good morning, Chair and Board of Indiana Charter School Board of Directors. Normally I keep my mask on because I have a medically fragile family member, but I do want you to be able to hear me. My name is Dr. Yvonne Bullock. I've been in education for 35 years, so sat in every seat of education, from a teacher to a school superintendent to a charter school founder and school leader. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding some of the challenges of an independent charter school. I was not told until late last night when I received an email that we could not provide handouts, but Indy STEAM Academy does have a notebook which clearly documents that I feel that you, in making such a major decision, should be able to receive. So I am asking the board chair, would you please receive the notebook that we have prepared for you?
There's no protocol that prevents that. Okay, that's fine. Why don't you go ahead and pass that out after? I don't want you, I'll pass those. I don't want you to, Jeopardize. please. Continue. Thanks.
The mission of Indy STEAM Academy is to nurture the academic and creative talents of students through science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. We build a strong foundation to help children be prepared for high school, college, and careers. Our focus is to prepare students for a STEM workplace. We found when we were applying for authorization back in 2018 that there were over 2.8 million jobs in engineering and STEM, and yet there were a lack of highly qualified workers. So the vision of Indy STEAM was to create a pool of students who would be prepared to go through the elementary learning science inquiry process and engineering design process and moving to the middle school, the high school, and college to be prepared to take on positions in our STEM workforce like Cummins and Lilly's and Raytheon and Roche. So that was our mission, and it still is our mission and vision here at Indy STEAM Academy. In year one, we were presented with very few challenges because we only had 75 students, of whom we doubled our enrollment based on the closing of Condesi. We had children at the end of our first year to join Indy STEAM Academy. And then in December of the second year, we had students join our academy from Him by Her. We also had a few students join our academy from Ignite and Matchbook, but the majority of them came from Condesi, Him by Her. So I want to say that when we think about enrollment, we were bombarded with more students than we anticipated coming into year two. I must say that we did not have any corrective action strategies or plans in year one with with our executive director. Those corrections did not come until year two as a matter of correction, August 19, 2022. In an attempt to build a leadership team with teachers who aspired to become classroom administrators, we tried to find support for our administration. But what I found as a school leader is that with the transition of teachers to leadership who had no prior education or training in school leadership that I spent most of my time trying to train them and prepare them to do the job as well as run the school, which kind of put me at a physical deficit. My board said, you know, Yvonne, you're not going to have the bandwidth to sustain such a level of functioning. And I found that to be true as I tried to be an excellent leader to the team, to my leadership team, my aspiring leadership team. My ability to attend to the paperwork requirements became second place to the day-to-day operations of the school because the children come first. It was never the inability to complete the paperwork, but the time constraints to keep abreast. I do not regret submitting the paperwork. I submitted the paperwork, but I admit the paperwork was late in many instances year two. But I don't regret giving the time and attention to the students, my staff, and my team, my parents and my team. I've always sacrificed to make sure that Indy STEAM Academy could thrive and accomplish its mission. After the first corrective action plan, the board hired a consultant to support Indy STEAM Academy. At the end of our first year, we had a school treasurer from another school district come, but the problem is that we were using QuickBooks. And with QuickBooks, the finances weren't properly recorded, which made it very difficult for the school treasurer to complete the new financial document that was submitted. In the Charter School Board created, and I think it's a great idea, a financial template which compares the expected expenses against the actual expenses, and then you identify the variances. So my school treasurer struggled with putting the information into that new template. I'm not sure that she received a lot of training or support with how to complete the document, but yes, we did struggle. So we hired a consultant to come in to assist us. We also hired a new accountant to assist us. But what we didn't realize was that over a year's period of time, it was going to take anywhere from 3 to 6 months just to go back and put those funds in the right accounting categories to be able to create the financial document that the Charter School Board needed. We hired a bookkeeping company, and they too came in, took all of our paper records, which were great, organized them meticulously to help get started on the financial document that the executive director requested. But yet and still, until all of the numbers in QuickBooks, because the one thing we didn't want to do was to provide inaccurate information to our executive director. So it did. It took 6 months to actually get all of the documents organized, get the codes in the right place to give a correct financial accounting of our school. And we did give a correct financial picture of our school. I want to talk a little bit about our board, because Tanya Mack has worked with Indy STEAM Academy since 2015 and was with us until February 14, 2024. And I would hate for it to be on public record or for her to be watching via Zoom to hear someone say that she was derelict in her responsibilities, because I say absolutely not. She was very attentive. She has a handicapped child. She worked from home through P&G, but she spent most of her time addressing the concerns from the Indiana Charter School Board than she did paying attention to her own job. I'm sure she would say if she were standing before you here today. We did have a corrective action plan. We hired a consultant from Arizona to come and straighten out the remaining finances. I see two, but I'm going to keep talking and get done in two. Who did straighten out all the finances. And we have the accountant now who is still with us, helping us to create the quarterly financial reports. I want to talk a little bit about enrollment before my minutes are up. Indy STEAM Academy had a strong enrollment. We went from 75 to 150. The state only lets us claim 10% of those students. So in year 2, we did not overestimate. We were only allowed to claim 112 students, yet and still on August 1, 150 walked in the door. Indy STEAM Academy was underpaid. Not the second year, we were underpaid. And that's why we had to go to Charter School Capital to get some cash flow, because the state had actually underfunded us year 2. So then we received, for this school year, we projected 170, and the state funded us on 190. And so we did have to pay back on 20. But I just want to make that correction to you to let you know that our struggles and our challenges started when we were underfunded by the DOE due to the additional children we didn't anticipate coming to Indy STEAM Academy. I do hold myself accountable, and I'm willing to answer any questions that you have of me regarding everything that we have done. We have worked diligently. We've had consultants come in to support me, to help me with our Title I site visit and the audit and submitting all of our Title I documents. I'm going to say this before you have me sit down or be quiet, is that the Title I process, it's a new template. And you have to go into jot form. It doesn't allow you to save. It doesn't allow you to close. You have to put everything in the document before you can click submit. And the one thing I can say, as I have mentioned to Frank Cheeky, having been in Title I all of my days of education, is that I've never seen a document so difficult to complete. Being able to submit it, and you put the information in, you click next, it goes away. And I found myself trying to run a school and work with my staff and students, and then going in and over in those Title I apps, having to submit that information over and over, which became exhaustive for me. It wasn't that we weren't trying to complete the Title I documents. We did try, but there were a lot of extenuating circumstances that prohibited us from getting it done on time.
Thank you very much. I want to just take a moment and ask if any of the board members have questions for the school that you'd like to ask before we move to public comment.
Oh, you haven't heard from my board chair.
We'll do that during
Oh.
public comment.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Yes, Board Member Hawkins. We can see you. You're muted. Okay, why don't we move to public comment? Is she muted on our end, Bea? Technical difficulties. Give us just a moment.
Also
So sorry.
Typing chat.
Oh, sure. Violet, if you could type your question into the chat, and then we could read it here if we can't get the sound to work. Okay. Okay. Well,
Mhm.
they're working on that. Thank you very much
Mhm.
for your time. What we will do is move to public comment. I do have a list of folks that have signed up for public comment. We're going to allow 10 minutes for this portion of the meeting. We generally do not allow public comment at this stage because the staff usually have public forums for every school. Because there was not a public forum, we're going to allow for public comment. It's not something we've done before, but we're going to do it today because we feel like it's an important thing to do. Unfortunately, we can only dedicate 10 minutes because, as I mentioned, we have 4 schools on the agenda today and we have to leave this room at 11 o'clock. So with that, I do have,
Dr. Lee
Oh.
first.
okay, is Violet
No, Dr. Lee.
Okay, so what I'll do is I will start with Dr. Lee, the board chair, and we'll kick it off there, and then I will move to any other members online who wish to offer public comment, then we'll move to the paid chair. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lee. And let's hope we can hear Dr. Lee. We can't hear you yet.
Or let her unmute.
It's not letting her unmute on her
Right.
end.
Right. It's on your end.
We've got you. We can hear you now, Dr. Lee.
Oh, great. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't be here. I take care of my mom, but I had been working with Dr. Bullock to try to get here, and then my mom she's not feeling too well, so I couldn't make the arrangements we were trying to work on. So I apologize for that because this is very important. Give you a little history about myself. I retired 38 years, but I've never stopped working. So I have 44 years in education, and I've done everything except be a superintendent. I retired as assistant superintendent. I came on the board with for Dr. Bullock, and then we had that catastrophe where everyone left, and of course I had to stay on because this is in my heart. It means a lot. As the board chair, I want to read a letter that we composed because the other board members couldn't be here. Dear Indiana Charter School Board, as a board, we could not agree to surrender the Charter Academy for closing. This situation really saddens us. I can honestly say, to the best of our ability, the board completed tasks asked of us to do. Mr. Bentley did give us praise as a board for doing things in a timely manner. The past mistakes are in the past, and the future can be brighter for the Academy. This board made a commitment to Indy STEAM Academy. At this point, we are asking that you look at what has improved and focus on the students, parents, and staff to allow Indy STEAM Academy to remain open for the 2024-25 school year. The board has worked cooperatively with Dr. Bullock and all others to improve situations that were not working as well as could be in the past. Efforts to improve past deficiencies were all made. Please base your decision on what is best for students, parents, and staff of Indy STEAM Academy and not focus on past situations. That's from the board as a whole. We devised that, but I just want to say this because I heard everything. When you keep doing the same thing, you get the same results, as we can see what has been happening. But as a board, we want to continue having a chance to be able to work with Mr. Bentley, Dr. Bullock, and all others to continue improving the dynamics of Indy STEAM Academy. You have a different board here, and we need a chance. I mean, I am here for the long run. Just give the chance. I mean, things were allowed to keep going, and if you let them keep going, they don't change. That's not going to happen here. I'm a hard worker. I'm in the education, and my heart is going out to these students, the parents, the teachers. This is just like, where did it come from? It's been coming, but I thought when we came on and we started working, and I do what people tell me to do. When I get an assignment, I do it. And I know I've done the best I could at our board with the things Mr. Bentley has asked us. I think this all comes about compliance. Dr. Bullock, she wants to do everything. She loves these kids. She loves the teacher, but I have to slow her down. You can't do it all by yourself. But when you get a group of people that you can work with, anything could be done. Give us the chance. This is a new board. It's the past is gone. Give us a chance. Give us this 1 year to make a difference, and we can. We've already started. Everything Mr. Bentley said. Give us the autonomy. You can't change what's happened. It's happened, but you can improve it. And that is what we are asking. This board is dedicated. I can talk to Dr. Bullock. I tell her like it is, okay? I don't have a problem with that. We work together well. I work with the other people. The whole board does. If you could just see our board, we work so well because it is about the children, these parents, and the teachers. But know this board here is dedicated. We are. That's all I can say. Just give us a chance. And I know Mr. Bentley can say he's seen some difference. When I get these orders, when I know what's supposed to be done, it's done because it's a reflection of me. And I take my job serious as this board chair. And I could go on, but I'm just telling you, you have a dedicated board here. We listen, we make changes. And I know there's Mr. Bentley, he could tell you, we read the emails, we do the work. And we're here to do this work. We're just asking, give us that 1 year to prove ourselves. Okay, 3 years are gone already where things were the same. You can't operate like that. It will not be the same with this board. And it hasn't been since we took over. We network. And I can just give you my word on that because my word is all I have. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. Violet, I see that you were able to come off mute. Would you like?
Yeah, I'm
Great,
so
thank
sorry. Well, I have a number of questions. Do you want me to wait until after the public hearing to
Why don't
ask?
we do this?
You want
Why
them
don't we
now?
do? Let's hold, let's do public comment and then we can do all of our questions together. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to move to the folks who have signed up. Again, we're going to have about another 6 or 7 minutes. So I would ask you to keep your comments as brief as possible. Certainly, we understand that this is a painful decision and we know that families and students love their schools. I think we're talking about operational and financial deficiencies, and the board really needs confidence that those can be turned around. So I would recommend that if you have comments to that effect, those would be the comments I might prioritize. So again, we'll go about another 7 minutes. I'm going to start with Trisha Bloom, who has signed up to offer testimony. Thank you. Hi.
I'm Trisha Blum. Progress over perfection. We've all heard it before. Surprisingly, today when I walked in, it's printed on the wall, walking down. And I think that's important to keep in mind as we talk about Indy STEAM. Again, my name is Trisha Blum. I am a consultant working with Indy STEAM. I am not the consultant that came in last year. I'm a new consultant that came in this year. Prior to working with Indy STEAM, I've worked with over 56 charter schools and charter management organizations across the United States. Some of them with budgets of $350 million, some of them with budgets of much less. I specialize in compliance, operations, finance, and governance. I have had the honor of working with Indy STEAM since 2021. Dr. Bullock's leadership and commitment to our student, staff, and community is beyond compare. I request that you let Indy STEAM learn. Again, progress over perfection. It has recognized its previous shortcomings. It's provided a 96-page comprehensive plan to you all and has addressed many of the issues. This plan not only meets, but in many cases exceeds requirements. It demonstrates a clear commitment to accountability and transparency, 2 pillars essential for the success and integrity of an educational institution. The school has implemented rigorous monitoring systems to ensure commitment to continued adherence to these standards. These systems include regular audits and the establishment of a compliance officer role dedicated solely to maintaining these standards. Such steps illustrate a proactive and structured approach to compliance, promising a stable and compliant operational future. I understand that there are reservations and that they come from past performance, but it is also crucial to acknowledge when an institution not only corrects its course, but sets new standards for itself. It no longer needs financial support from Grow Schools. It is working through all of the compliance matters that have been cited. There is a change in operational structure. So rejecting the turnaround plan might not only undermine the significant efforts made by the dedicated staff and administration, but it also disregards the needs and futures of the students who have chosen the institution as a pathway for their success. Again, I'm not going to continue. You understand the idea, but it is progress over perfection. I think you should allow Indy STEAM to continue and allow its students to continue to learn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to Princess Bandards. And after Princess will be Kimberly Brown, if you'd like to come up and stand.
Hello.
I'm going to keep this very brief, but I'm going to just talk in bullet points since we're on limited time. My son has is a special education student. When the compliance at ND STEAM is a huge issue. Huge issue. I know we're hearing, oh, it's about the children. Exactly. Because it's about the children, we have an obligation to protect them. And the compliance at this school is not acceptable at all. Like at all. He has a special education, he's a special education. It started out with, he has an out-of-state IEP. When we came to the school, that I was told by, I know I saw online, you're not allowed to name a person as far as a complaint. How would I say who I'm?
Just a staff member,
Okay,
perhaps?
the top staff member.
Okay.
There we go. Top staff member told me that out-of-state IEPs were not accepted. Me not knowing any better, I believe that. But I'm like, okay, so when are we going to have a meeting? For 2 months almost, my son went without an IEP. And because of that, he was suspended multiple times. He wasn't getting his services that he's supposed to get. A lot of things just continued to happen, only for me to find out, not only are they accepted, you're supposed to immediately enforce an out-of-state IEP. I was also told that a functional behavior plan had been started for him and that it was in place. We find out 3 or 4 months later, because he keeps having issues and being suspended and put out of school a ridiculous amount of time, comes to find out that was never done. And this could have all been prevented. So his education and as well as his esteem is being compromised. The outright refusal to follow special education guidelines is I'm surprised the school doesn't have a lawsuit, multiple of them. It's something I've never seen before. Without saying names again, I was told during CCC meeting by top staff member that they don't care about my son's BIP nor his disabilities. That was to me, my mom, his TOR at the time, and his homeroom teacher. So this is not something I'm making up. It was said in front of key people. And this is by the top staff members, the one who said that. I filed at least 8 DOE complaints for non-compliance, and all but I believe 1 of them have come back as founded because the school is just outright not following the rules. I've personally witnessed this, multiple of my son's special education teachers, because the turnover rate is crazy. But he's had at least 3, every single one out of their own mouths. I have witnessed them tell the top staff member that they are not in compliance and this is not how it's supposed to go. It is completely ignored and they are like demeaned and told basically to sit in your place, where they are trying to sit in their place and follow the rules. The DOE has corrective action timeline requirements that have not been followed. There's been ones that have been resent out and told like, hey, you did not comply with this yet, you need to do it. There's been at least 2 of those for that one. And that's most recently. Beforehand, they were being followed to the most part. They still weren't following the rules, but they were at least following the timeline guidelines for the corrective actions. But here recently, it's not being done. I was contacted by multiple staff members at the school saying that my son is being targeted and mistreated by the top staff member, being targeted, mistreated. He's come home crying multiple times, saying that the top staff member is mean to him and he doesn't know why he doesn't like him. He's spoken to his therapist about this. He's been suspended from school or the bus at least 20 days. Not including his most recent bus expulsion. And again, these are due to the rules not being followed. If they were being followed, all these suspensions and things would not have been happening. So he's losing a lot of education and it's really affecting his esteem because he thinks something's wrong with him. But the truth is you're not getting the help that you need. And this is only me because I take the time to look into the rules. So many parents don't even know what rules to look into. So they just take their student out and they move on. But I'm just like, no, that's not going to happen. It could be worse for my son. To move on, I was told by a key member of administration that the top staff member, that they had spoken to members of another member of the board of directors, and that they decided that since the school can't meet my son's special needs, and it's time for me to find a new school for him. And that was said very rudely, almost as if move on and get over it.
Okay.
I'm almost done. And then also due to the mistreatment, there is an open civil rights case due to disability discrimination against the school. And this was filed all the way back, I believe, in October. I've been told multiple times by the Department of Education for the civil rights side that the school is not complying with their investigation. They have requested multiple times for them to submit information, and the school is just outright refusing to comply. They'll say, oh, we'll do it here. They do not have it. Last time I spoke with them, which was within the last month, they said they have still not gotten that information from the school, and they're considering what next steps, including possibly pulling funding due to
Okay.
that,
Okay.
to not complying. Just last couple of things, due to mistreatment, also the administrative staff, the way they are treated, again, I am surprised there is not multiple lawsuits. They have every right to file lawsuits. It is outright bullying. If you look up the definition, they are being bullied. I would say, and this is an estimation, at least 75% of administrative staff have quit this year. You guys should look into this because, and I've witnessed them be mistreated and say, don't speak to them like that. Most of them have called me crying after they quit and said they had to quit just because they can't deal with that and how they're treated, and it's not okay. They're just trying to do their job. So a lot of the staff are great, but the top staff member is a huge problem.
Okay.
A
Thank you
huge
very
problem.
much for your comments.
Okay.
We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to move to Kimberly Brown, and then we are going to end the public comment portion of this so that we can keep moving. If you could just stick to maybe 2 to 3 minutes, that would be great.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Brown. I'm a grandmother of a student at the school. And to sit back and watch my grandson be mistreated is hard. To hear him come home and mention there were drugs at school, there were drugs on the bus, parents have not been notified, students have been misplaced, literally dropped off at the wrong bus stop when inquired about it. Oh, we'll send notice to the parents. Parents have not been notified. My son witnessed another child look up a girl's skirt, and we were told that's not what happened. This is what the child came home and told us. Well, we'll notify parents. Parents are not being notified about anything that's going on at the school.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to stop public comment there and thank everyone for coming and for signing up. Unfortunately, we've got to keep moving. Okay. Okay, we'll do one more. James is asking me to allow one more comment. Brittany Gordon, and I will ask you to keep your comments limited to 1 to 2 minutes, please.
Hi, I am a teacher, 4th grade teacher at Indy STEAM. I just want to highlight that I came this year. 14 out of the 17 students were about 3 years behind. We have gotten that number down in my classroom to 6. I have 3 kids that were 2 years behind that are now above grade level. I have 2 of those students here. And I just would like them to just give a little overview of how school is for them and how it started. She was low motivation, a lot of issues outside of the home. So when she started school, when you're taking a test, you're just clicking through. She tested at a kindergarten level, but we knew her brain wasn't kindergarten level, right? So pouring into her, what you pour in, if you pour enough of it in, it overflows out. She is now number 1 in the class. She's testing probably about at a 5th grade level. And that was the motivation poured in her. Yes, I teach the skill, but it was more so the love that was poured into her, the encouragement, the belief, crying on Friday when Fridays would come, not wanting to go to school not wanting to go home because she loved school so much. So my goal was not about making sure they mastered what was in the books, but more so mastering who they were. And I think I did that for them.
Thank you very much.
So can you talk about, just give how?
In school, we usually learn more than a 4th grader will usually learn more of. My teacher has taught us way more than we need to learn in the books, but more of what we need to learn about outside this world and what goes on when we grow up and how we go be the person we want to be and how we achieve those goals.
5 Ps.
The 5 Ps of success are proper preparation prevents poor poor performance, stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
That's great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Mateo, really quickly, do you have anything to say? Mhm. Go ahead, really quick. He's our last.
I feel that Indy's team should stay open because there needs to be more schools where children of color can learn who they are and where they come from. If you shut down Indy's team, that's one less opportunity for children of color to learn who they are and where they come from and who they can be.
That's an incredibly important message. Thank you very much.
I'm not finished.
Oh, go ahead. I'm
And
sorry.
Indy's STEAM deserves good representation. The STEAM in Indy STEAM Academy has letters that represent powerful words that we can all be when we grow up. The S stands for scientists. The T stands for technologists. The E stands for engineers. The A stands for agriculturists and artists. And the M stands for mathematics.
That's excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to turn it back over to James and open up question and answers with the board. So I want to turn it back over to Board Member Hawkins. I saw that you had questions. We're going to try to move through this as quickly as possible. So if you have questions for James, could you start there?
Well, I did have a question for James. In the report that you wrote, James, as to why you wanted to revoke their charter, you mentioned, and they mentioned in one of the community witnesses or community speakers said that she was concerned about the treatment of her child. Okay, so you mentioned there were several instances of complaints around special education students. So I wanted to know if those were substantiated by the oversight body.
So again, we've been sort of following this with DOE. Is my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Bridget, that there are 3 or 4. How many are open right now? 4 is from, we reached out to DOE yesterday or the day before to check in on it. And there are 4 open corrective actions. And there have been instances of non-compliance in responding to those corrective actions. I don't exactly have the details, but that is my understanding.
Okay, thanks, James. Violet, any other questions?
Yeah, well, I really would like to direct them to the principal because they have to do with her testimony more than the community witnesses testimony.
Okay, well, what if you?
We're having a time crunch, but it
Right.
feels like this is such an important action that we shouldn't rush to comply with our time constraints. But I understand you have to balance these things. So let me go through my questions as reasonably as fast as I can.
Yeah, that'd be. Thank you.
Okay, so the woman testified that she was a new consultant working with the school, and she'd been working with the school since 2021. So why would you say we haven't seen more improvements? I would ask her, but I think it's more appropriate to ask you. She's been working with the school for quite some time now.
Oh, this consultant,
Specifically improvements to your
oh,
reporting
okay, yes,
requirements
yes,
being met.
yes. The lady that just spoke joined us this year to help us with our Title I compliance. The previous consultant helped us with the financial to get our finances stabilized. So we did show improvement. We did get financially stable. We were able to submit all of the Q1, 2, 3, 4 budgets to the Indiana Charter School Board for year 2. And we have submitted all of year 3, Q1, Q2. We're now at Q3. Tammy Chaney, who is our accountant, has submitted all quarterly reports to the Indiana Charter School Board. We are not missing any financial data in the notebook that you have for the board members who are sitting here with the notebook. You will see a statement provided by Tammy Chaney. It's right behind finance. And then you will also see her balanced budget sheet and her profit and loss sheet in the notebook as well. Tammy Chaney wanted to be here today, but she was discouraged to come by our executive director.
So what happened to your board, your original board? Why
Yes,
did
ma'am.
most of them leave?
Yes, ma'am. On February 14th, 2024, we called the executive director, Mr. Bentley, to Indy STEAM Academy to speak with the staff because I was concerned about his concerns about our academy and compliance and the insinuations that, oh, well, that's a bad charter school leader. So I called Mr. Bentley and asked him to come to the school to talk privately with my staff without my presence. And he did. And he told our staff that there was no risk of closure. After that, he spoke with me and we talked about some of my challenges and struggles with having the leadership help that I needed. We had a terrible conflict of interest where one of the board members' daughters was hired to work at the school in an administrative capacity. That created a huge conflict of interest. I spoke to Mr. Bentley about that. He says, well, Yvonne, you hired her, you fire her. And as soon as he left the building, I fired her. And when we met, the board met on the same day, February 14th at 6 o'clock. And the board member who had the daughter that was released prior to the board meeting, because I didn't want my board to think that I was being deceptive and letting that be a result of our board meeting at 6. I released the board member's daughter before our board meeting. So that board member immediately submitted her resignation. The second board member, the board submitted a plan to Mr. Bentley. The problem is that the consultant company that the board wanted to hire wanted $100,000 to help. And we felt that was more than what we could afford. The accountant said, Indy STEAM can't afford a $100,000 consultant. So you're going to have to come up with another plan. And that's how we ended up with Ms. Blum, because we needed someone who could help us do the same job, but charge us less money. At that time, Mr. Bentley was not in support of the plan that was submitted by Tanya Mack. And so Tanya Mack resigned. Brandon Warren resigned, all in the same meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Violet, I'm going to move on. We need to shift over to any final questions for James. James, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, Dr. Bullock, very much. Okay, I want to open the floor for any board members who have questions of James. Anyone in the room, questions for James? No? Okay, anyone online? Questions for James? Okay, seeing none, I just have one question, James. You didn't mention academic performance at the school. I looked up via public record, the academic performance of the school. It by itself is alarming. I would love to hear how academics play into sort of your sort of oversight and judgment of the school.
So as I mentioned earlier, we are moving toward incorporating more academics in our sort of accountability system. It's been difficult. It's been, given all the changes, and we're getting more changes. I mean, they're changing the diploma and they're changing a bunch of other stuff again. So it's a constant struggle to try to look at academic data and use it in consequential decisions like this. So yes, we looked at the academic data. We look at it comparatively. It could be better. It's not the worst, right? But in this case, our issues were more focused on just the stability of the school itself. And so we didn't feel, again, there's a lot of things I could respond to about things that have been said. I do want to say one thing. I don't know what she was talking about me discouraging someone from coming to speak at the board meeting. That is false, categorically. I don't want anyone to assume that I am trying to manipulate who can come to these board meetings. However, what I will say is that, I'm not questioning the fact that Dr. Bullock's passionate. She's obviously passionate. I'm not questioning classroom issues other than say maybe the special education, which we've heard from at least one other speaker. But in total, I do want to address, the board chair asked to give her a chance, and I totally appreciate that. She's only been involved in this new board has only been involved for a couple of months. But how many chances? I mean, we've been dealing with this for 3 years since the school started. I mean, at some point, accountability becomes meaningless if we just let it keep going on, right? I mean, the standards that we hold Indy STEAM to are the exact same standards we hold every other school in our portfolio to. And none of them have problems or have had problems for this long in this manner. At some point, even if we look at it, objectively it's bad, but also this is the only school that are having these issues and having them to this magnitude. At some point, we have to put our foot down and say, this isn't working. I am very sympathetic to Dr. Lee and her board wanting another try. And if you all decide to give them a year or another try, we will happily work with them in the same way that we've been working them for the past 3 years. But, at some point, we as a staff just have to step in and say, this isn't working. We can't figure out why, but nothing has changed.
Okay.
And sorry, I don't mean to go
Thank you,
on,
James.
but-
Okay, so are there any other questions from the board for James before we move on?
So James, do you disagree with the consultant that there have been improvements?
No, I think that they're definitely moving in the right direction. And as I said, I don't have the plan itself had some really good parts to it. It didn't address everything necessarily. Our biggest concern with the plan was feasibility. Given the school's financial position, we looked at their funding sources. Some of it was, let's just say that without ESSER funds, we do not believe that the plan can be executed. And that is the primary problem. Staff is expensive. You need to hire an operations admin position. That's expensive. You need to hire a special ed teacher, a special ed director. That's expensive. And so it wasn't so much that the plan itself was problematic. It was our fear that the plan would not be executed even, to some percentage, that it wouldn't actually fix the problems that we have.
Okay. All right, so we have a recommendation from the staff that the charter of Indy STEAM Academy be revoked. So we, at this point, can move to accept the staff recommendation. I would take any motions from the board, or if you have a different motion that you want to make, but right now we have a recommendation from the staff to revoke the charter. Do I hear any motions from the board members?
I move to accept the staff's suggestion to revoke the charter.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the staff's recommendation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to do a roll call vote. So by voting affirmatively, you are agreeing with the staff recommendation to revoke the charter. So let me start with board member Kramer. We can't hear you, Jill.
They can't unmute, is what you put in.
They can't unmute. Okay, well, let me move, I'll come back to you. Let me move to board member Hawkins. I know that we can hear Violet.
Yes.
Okay. Board member Jositis,
Yes.
board member Schultz,
Yes.
board member Green,
Yes.
board member Kramer.
Yes.
Okay, I too am a yes. So with that, the board has affirmed the staff recommendations. And we will close this portion of the meeting. I'm going to allow for a 5-minute sort of break to allow us to transition, to take breaks. If folks want to leave the room, that's okay. We're going to take 5 short minutes and we will re-adjourn at 10:13.
There should be.
In your binder?
Okay, great. All right, so we have, our paths have not.
Okay, we're gonna have to.
Our paths did not cross the paper. I get Right. Oh, beautiful.
Okay, folks, we're going to re-adjourn in 2 minutes.
Please do this enrollment statement. And please. There should have been a statement from Jean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And jump into them. Few minutes about both of them. And then
We do have something signed up. Should we just invite them to come and speak during this presentation? It's easy.
Yeah, probably. Or, when they're done presenting, just give them 2 minutes.
So it's easy posting.
Yeah, that's the, even the program.
Okay. Okay, okay, we'll give them an opportunity. Was there a public, did you have a public hearing for Excel Center?
Yeah, the public comments were attempted.
They were
part
not,
of the package. They were?
they were attached, but they were.
Oh, in my
Fix
phone,
that.
in my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. My phone has. It was only the clear.
Okay, well then, we're not doing public comment for that. We've already done.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, I will. Thanks. Okay, we are going to re-adjourn. So if everyone could either be seated or step out of the room, we'd appreciate that. Thank you very much. The door in the back.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, folks, we are going to re-adjourn. So if you would be seated quietly or step out of the room. We want to keep moving. We have 45 minutes to get through 3 schools. So we're going to ask that you be silent in the audience, please. Okay, moving on, we are going to consider the activation of 2 new Excel centers, one in Bartholomew County, one in Grant County. The staff have held public comment, public forums to receive public comments. The public comments have been attached, board members, in your board packet. We thank everyone who went out to testify, who shared public comment either verbally or in writing. We've received all of those comments. And so at this time, we are not going to do any more public comment in this forum because they have already happened. You're welcome to email your comments to the ICSB staff if you're interested. For now, I'm going to turn it over to James. We're going to combine the discussions for the activation of the 2 Excel centers. And so James, if you would share your presentation, but then maybe share a sentence or 2 about the distinction between the 2 or any nuance or unique features of either school.
Okay, thank you. In the 2017 board meeting, Excel or GEI, which is the Central Indiana Excel, was granted 4 charters. At that same meeting, we approved the Excel Center Muncie. And then a year or 2 later, we approved the Excel Center Bloomington. So the 2 charters that are coming before us have already been granted by the board. This is simply a meeting to activate those charters. This is something we've done in the past. We don't typically do it much anymore, but for established groups that have been with us a really long time, it sometimes facilitates the process. So they're trying. GEI submitted a request to activate 2 charters: one the Excel Center Bartholomew County in Columbus, Indiana, and one the Excel Center Grant County in Marion, Indiana. You can see the note already on here that talks about the enrollment, with the budget. I'm going to leave it at that they have enough enrollment for these schools already built into the budget. So GEI, the network, I have been before you many times talking about them. We've been working with them. I've been working with them for 10 years. They're a great network. The board is great. We've never had any governance problems. They have operations and processes in place for these kinds of things. These will be the 8th and 9th or 9th and 10th schools or 10th and 11th schools we have opened with them. So we are very familiar with the process. Again, they have demonstrated over time the ability to open schools in multiple communities, in multiple areas, urban and rural. And so we really have no concerns about their ability to stand up either of these 2 schools. And then when we talk about sort of performance, it's difficult to measure adult high school performance, at least on the ICSB accountability system. We haven't really figured that out yet. We're still working on it. We're talking about a new system that we're going to introduce maybe in a year or 2 once we've worked through the kinks. But, you can see from the data in here that not only are they awarding, have awarded over 600 high school diplomas in 2023, but then there's a study that they conducted with several research universities talking about the actual ROI to a society of these schools. I'm not going to go into it. You can read the report. And honestly, I think it's probably a better way to measure success of adult education programs, because in reality, that's why they exist. It's not to give someone a diploma. It's to improve their chances at getting a job or a career post-diploma. They're also financially stable. Again, not a concern. The network has the support of Goodwill, which is obviously a large nonprofit organization. So that's all I'm going to say about the Goodwill network. So the first school is Excel Center Bartholomew County. You can see the statistics in the recommendation about the number of individuals there who don't have a diploma. They're proposing to open in fall of 24. Both schools starting with 200 students with maximum capacity of 250, which is pretty standard for Excel centers. And again, their enrollments fluctuate a little bit more than K-12 schools, but that really is a good range for them. The network's going to help stand them up. The budget is reasonable. It incorporates some GEI support, but, they taper it off. And again, this is something they've done. The model has been developed over a decade or more. And so we have no concern about the budget, nor do we have concern if enrollment is under what they typically would expect, because they have the network to support them in that, and they have done that with some of their other schools, because again, as a nonprofit organization, this is mission for them. So they plan to leverage existing Goodwill programs that they already have in the community. And you can see those on here: Nurse Family Partnership, Goodwill Mission Coach. They've spoken with local legislators, Ryan Lauer and Senator Greg Walker, who they believe are supportive. And then it talks about some of the other folks that they've spoken to in Bartholomew. I'm going to move to Grant County. Again, we can do questions later. Similarly, you can see the statistics about students with, individuals without diplomas. Same opening, 200 students in 2024 with a max of 250. I skipped an important part, which they may address. In Bartholomew, there were two unknowns. One, that they were still in the process of looking for a school leader, and also still in the process of finding a facility. They may have updates on that. Again, this is part of the process. They actually have teams, like they have a facility team that actually does this work. So again, it is not uncommon for them to come to us and say, we haven't quite solidified a facility. So that's something we'd monitor as part of the pre-opening process, but it's not something that we are particularly concerned about at this point. Grant schools, the Grant County is a little bit different. They have a proposed school leader named Jenny Grant, and you can see her, some of her accomplishments in the document. Again, the budget is very, very similar. There's some minor differences, but the reality of it is that it's pretty much the same. They have identified a facility in this case, and you can see the details there, Midtown Crossing, which is in a well-trafficked, easy access to public transportation retail space, which again is not uncommon for Excel centers. It allows a lot of access and a lot of foot traffic to access the school, and then also it helps with the marketing. And then you can see the list of they're working with local state representative Lori Goss Reeves. Again, they have working with the Nurse Family Partnership and the Mission Coach Services. And one little anecdote to sort of illustrate their community engagement. The name actually changed based on a community comment, because they were originally going to call it the Excel Center Marion. And apparently someone from the community suggested maybe a more inclusive name to encompass the county would be a better name for the school. And they adopted that name. So, you can tell that they're actually listening to folks from the community. And with that, I'm going to stop and let them come up and present and maybe give you some updates about where they are.
Great, thank you.
Either order you want to go. Bartholomew or Grant. Or network. Okay, slow, short.
Very short.
Very short.
We will go very quickly. My name is Betsy Delgado. I'm the Chief Mission and Education Officer for Goodwill Education Initiatives. Just very quickly want to say we do have the entire team here. Collectively, between the folks that are here, each has at least 10 years of experience within the Excel Center. We do promote from within. We also have our VP of Finance here for any financial questions that you guys might have. And then with that, I'm actually just going to stop and introduce our new VP of Education, Katie. You guys are probably sick of hearing from me, so that'd be good for you to hear from Katie. I will conclude with just a brief comment on our update on our research, and then we'll be done. Katie.
Good morning. Like Betsy said, I'm Katie Bustamante. I'm excited to talk to you this morning about our hopeful expansion to Grant County and Bartholomew County. Before I jump into some of the specifics, I did want to tell you a very short graduate story to help paint a picture of the students that we're serving. So I'm going to tell you the story of Saja. She is a graduate from one of our Excel centers here. And she came to the United States as an adult from war-torn Iraq, where she did not have an opportunity to go to high school or middle school. When she enrolled, she had 3 young children, 0 credits, and struggled with English. While she was at the Excel Center, she found that she was good at math, but still struggled in English. Through the use of our drop-in center, remediation, extra tutoring, life coaching, and lots of hard work, Saja graduated with dual credit and a pharmacy tech certification. She then went on to IUPUI, where she graduated with a degree in chemistry while also working as a pharmacy tech in 2020. But she didn't stop there. She enrolled in Purdue's PharmD program, and I am proud to report that she graduated with her doctorate in pharmacy 2 weeks ago with job offers at $130,000. And her oldest daughter is graduating from high school next month. So super excited to share her story. But I give you her as an example to show you an example of one of the over 8,000 graduates that we have graduated from the Excel Center in our territory since 2010. A little bit about the model. The Excel Center provides adults with an opportunity to earn their Core 40 high school diploma, along with industry-recognized certifications and dual college credit, while preparing students for career paths in fields that provide better than average wages and growth opportunities. We combine high-quality in-person instruction taught by licensed teachers at an accelerated pace with wraparound services such as life coaching, barrier removal, free transportation, and free childcare, and access to industry-recognized credentials. We do all of that with our purpose of breaking generational poverty. Looking at our network across the state, we have 16 Excel centers operated in central and southern Indiana. 7 are in Indianapolis, and then we also have Excel centers in Anderson, Clarksville, Muncie, Kokomo, Noblesville, Lafayette, Richmond, Bloomington, and Shelbyville, authorized by you all. Looking specifically to Bartholomew County and Grant County, did want to share a few updates on our progress. First, we are in final lease negotiations in Bartholomew County. And the building that we've been working with also has the opportunity for some temporary space. So as we build out our more permanent space, we would be able to use a portion of the building. Additionally, we do have our new director here with us today, Dana. Dana comes to us from the DOE directly, but previously did work in Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation and is a longtime resident of Columbus, Indiana. In Grant County, as James mentioned, we do have a signed lease and we have begun our build out process. We also have Jenny with us here today. Jenny comes to us directly from Jobs for America's Graduates and other workforce development programs, and also has spent several decades in Marion. And so with that, I will turn it over to Betsy to talk about our research.
So the last time I was with you, I did, as James introduced, kind of give you an update. So I thought I'd do so again. I also wanted to dispel a little bit of mythology around our research partner. So obviously you all are aware that it is foundational to us that we understand how this model is working for the students that come to our schools. And I wanted to just note that I think there's a little bit of mythology out there that we're paying the University of Notre Dame for the research that they're doing, but they have always invited us to be a partner and have said, if this doesn't come out well, the Excel Center, we're going to publish this research anyway. So it's a very vulnerable position that we put ourselves in, and we really do find them a valuable partner. Leo is part of the economics department at the University of Notre Dame, and their mission is to use scientific methods to help service providers understand and share poverty interventions. They conduct impact evaluations that identify innovative, effective, and scalable programs and policies that help people move permanently out of poverty. We've presented our research results to you before. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. We now have an economic formula that our economists are using called the marginal value of public fundings. And what they've done is calculated the return on investment through that formula, and have now published their work stating that the marginal value of public funding of the Excel centers is 20-1. For comparison, most workforce development programs see a marginal value of public funding return on investment of 44 cents. So it's pretty impactful. I also want to give a very quick update that we are continuing to do our research with the University of Notre Dame and are in the middle of 2 randomized controlled trials right now. One is centered on how we support our justice-involved students, and we're expecting the results of that study to be shared around December this year. And another randomized controlled trial looking at the impact of our application and orientation processes on students. So we just launched that randomized controlled trial, and we'll know about that in a couple of years. We'll have those results. With that, we will conclude our comments.
Thank you. If you two would just stay right there for a moment. James, go ahead and take the podium. I want to open it up to board members who have any questions, either for James or for the representatives from Excel Center. So I will shift to our board members who are participating virtually. Do any of you have questions for either James, the staff, or for the Excel Center? Okay,
I do. I want to know
Yes.
how I can get access to the report that you just referenced, but for my edification. But also, you didn't mention South Bend in the list of Excel centers, and I believe we have a center. Or am I misunderstanding?
No, you're correct. That's Goodwill has a bunch of different organizations that actually run adult high schools. GEI, which is the one we're talking about today, runs them all sort of central and south. The South Bend Goodwill is run by Goodwill Leeds, which is a totally separate Goodwill.
Okay.
They use the Excel model, but it's a different nonprofit organization overseeing the northern schools. So they do Gary, Hammond, and South Bend, and Elkhart. Yeah. So they work very closely with them, but it's a different organization. And I will say, we went to the Excel Centers conference, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something. They have a national conference. And it was an excellent, well done conference. But it was really kind of inspiring because they had folks there from all over the country who are representatives of Goodwill organizations who are standing up or planning to stand up Excel centers based on this model. And it was really, I mean, we're talking South Carolina, was Puerto Rico was one, South Carolina and Kentucky. And I mean, it was great. It was really actually kind of inspiring. So it's good to know that this I'm a strong supporter of the Excel centers, always have been since before I was with the charter board. I can't recommend these schools more. I guess that wasn't the question you asked me, but I'm going to say that anyway.
No, that's good.
Yeah,
Does the
and I'll-
research cover the South Bend organization also, or the one that's running the South Bend Excel Center?
It's all Excel centers, I think.
Okay.
you all can share.
I'll email you the link.
report with
I'll
James.
email you the
Okay,
report
James will
or a
send it
link to the
out
report.
all.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the board?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Maybe Betsy, I don't know if this is for you or you guys can tag team it. Like James, I've been certainly a supporter of everything that the Excel Center has done from the jump, right? But what struck me as maybe being kind of uncharacteristic, and maybe this is just because I'm relatively new in this seat, is I'm not used to seeing the number of opposition from public comments for Excel centers at all. And when it is disgruntled community members is one category, right? I've been through that with my own charter school. I get it. But what struck me as being significant is district superintendents, United Way, education coalitions. So I love that you have established your footing in the area with a location and with leaders. You have a community outreach plan, I'm sure, all of that. But talk to me a little bit about how you intend to either mend these relationships, collaborate with these folks, all of that good stuff.
So we'll meet with anybody
Yeah.
and we will move forward. And so I think we got started a little late in meetings. And so we're going to go ahead and continue with those. We have historically, and other communities have opposition when it comes to those positions that you're talking about. All we can do is go in and be a good partner and really graduate the number of students that we say we're going to do. And, you know, what we do see in both counties is resources, a sophistication around making sure that there's good mental health supports with these families and those kinds of things. And so beyond our education partners within those spaces, we're also building out, places in work and health and employment and those kinds of things and those kind of partners. So I think we just need to get to work.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
Anna, I want to be
Please.
a little, because I think I can be maybe a little more unfiltered.
Yeah.
It's not surprising. I believe that a lot of those were from the, is it McDowell, which is the local
Oh.
adult basic ed program. And it's not unusual. There is this tension between ABE and the adult high schools that is sort of, it's everywhere. It's just maybe more vocal in Bartholomew County. My view on this is, and has always been, that they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, they're different programs. They provide different services to different students. So there is absolutely no reason why they cannot coexist. In the end, what's most important is that a student that has needs, has those needs met, and they may have those needs met in an Excel Center because it provides more services than, say, an ABE, or they may need more credits or more time, or they may not even meet the requirements to get in, to go to ABE. So as far as I'm concerned, I get why there might be some tension from the local, but it's not a competition that I care about, in the sense that what I care about is the adults or individuals have access, and the fact that there may be a rivalry there is really not. again, we saw these comments, but they're not super
Okay, great. Thank you.
concerning to us.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So board members, we have a recommendation from the staff to activate charters for the Excel Center, both Bartholomew County, and Excel Center Grant County. And again, as James mentioned, these charters have already been awarded. What we are doing is accepting their recommendation to activate those charters. So with that, we will vote on these separately for the record. We'll start with Excel Center Bartholomew County. Do I have a motion to accept the staff recommendation to activate the charter?
So moved. Yeah, I'll second it then.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll do a roll vote. Board Member Kramer.
Yes.
Great. Board Member Hawkins.
Yes.
Board Member Jositis.
Yes.
Board Member Schultz.
Yes.
Board Member Green.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Great. We will move to Excel Center. Yes, congratulations. Sorry. Let's move to Excel Center Grant County. Do I have a motion to accept the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll do a roll call. Board Member Kramer.
Yes.
Okay, Board Member Hawkins. Oh, you're muted again. Uh-oh.
I got it this time. Yes.
There it is. Okay, she said yes. Thank you. Board Member Jositis.
Yes.
Board Member Schultz.
Yes.
Okay, Board Member Green.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Congratulations to both Excel Centers. Okay, we are going to move on to our final item of business, and that is regarding Geo Next Generation Academy. You have the information in your packet. I'm going to turn it over to James to present the staff recommendations.
So a little background on this request. We authorized Geo Academies in at the August 29 meeting. And Geo Academies is the organizer for Geo Next Gen is the school. They are part of what is the Geo Foundation Network. Geo Foundation is a organization that has been in Indiana for 20 plus years. They currently have 3 schools with us, 21st Century in Gary Middle College, and Geo Next Gen. When they were talking about opening this school, so we're talking back before it was even authorized in 2019, they had talked about eventually wanting to expand this school into a K-12 in Indianapolis, like the one in Gary. But they wanted to start with high school. They started with high school. They came back and asked to add grade 7 and 8, which we approved. And now they currently serve over 200 students in grade 7. The location, and this is where maybe a little context is needed. They are located at 4010 or 4020, both, maybe Sherman Drive. I get the addresses mixed up. That is the former Tinley campus. There used to be there are 2 buildings on the property. It's 50 acres. The Tinley schools used to be there. I don't know how many years ago. Geo Foundation, which is the nonprofit partner, bought that property. So they bought the entire, all 50 acres in the 2 buildings. Initially, they occupied part of one building. Indy Steam then leased the other building from them. And then there was another charter school named Genius School that moved into, that co-located with Geo Next Gen. So the facility itself belongs to Geo Foundation. Genius School, as you can see from the recommendation, they were denied a renewal and then a charter. So they got permission from the state board to become a private school, but they're moving 12 miles away. Indy Steam is now closing. And so what you have are Geo Foundation owning one building that they have the current school in, 712, and then they have a whole nother building that has been used pretty much its entire existence as a school, including most recently used as an elementary school. I want to emphasize that this was not planned. The whole interrelationship. When Indy Steam entered into a lease with Geo Foundation, We said that has nothing to do with us. That's a vendor relationship. It's a building. You're entering into a lease. That's a third-party relationship. That has nothing to do with the charter board. Your relationship with the lessee has nothing to do with us. You make decisions based on your, as a third-party landlord. So there was it was unusual, but in reality, like it made sense because there was a vacant school building that, those don't grow on trees. So that relationship and the fact that they're coming here might be expedited by the potential closure of Indy Steam or the closure of Indy Steam, but there's no correlation between the two. It's just simply they're happening kind of at the same time. And honestly, I might have nudged them a little to accelerate the process because we now have 230 students, the Genius School students and the Indy Steam students who are at that location right now, whose families need to make a decision about another school to attend. And if this expansion happens, what would happen? So right now what happens with Indy Steam, and I hate to digress a little bit, but it's important to understand this. We will go to Enroll Indy, which is the unified enrollment system, literally right after this meeting, and I will tell them what happened. And they will start to reach out to families to help to assist them with enrolling in another school. The way that works is that, unfortunately, we're past the second enrollment day for Enroll Indy. Enroll Indy has two enrollment windows, and the lottery works with those two windows. And then once those two windows are gone, it's choice. So basically, you go through the system, but it's like wherever there's remaining spaces. That's not ideal, obviously, because the choices have already been made for next year. So this, among other things, would give families and students the opportunity to stay in that location, which, we know families make choices about schools all the time. Some may have made the choice for Indy Steam specifically for the STEAM programming. Some may have made the choice because it's a school that was in their neighborhood that they'd heard good things about. So I think it's critical to understand that these students at Indy Steam and at Genius, to the extent they don't want to go 12 miles away to Genius, have to go into Enroll Indy and make a new choice. This would give them another choice, and another choice that would minimize disruption. Obviously, it's a different school, but it's still the same location. And that school, GeoNextGen, has coexisted the whole time Indy Steam has been there. So that's something to consider. That's sort of a little background about how this impacts the previous decision that we made. So they submitted this request. They're asking to amend their enrollment plan to add grades K-6 at once, which is unusual, but not any different than us approving a K-6 school with 250 students. They submitted their enrollment plan request, submitted a budget. They have recently, and they can Dana can provide more detail, recently received a federal expansion grant, not through the state, but through the organization Geo Foundation has, which really makes this a lot easier. I mean, they have a lot of funds available to expand. And they, so they have the facility already. One other thing I want to talk about, the other factor that we were sort of taking into account, and this one impacts me personally. IPS is obviously going under a big change right now. They are changing the way that they operate their K-8 schools. I know this because I have a sixth grader in an IPS school who could walk to school today, but next year is going to have to go to a middle school that's 2 miles away, which sort of a curveball. I mean, we're going to do it, but one of the things we loved about the school is it was a neighborhood school. So there are and I've heard a lot of parents who are not happy about this. They want their kids to stay in the school they're in, or they just like that consistency. They don't like them going K-5 and then 7-8 and then high school. That's a lot of jumps. They would prefer to have them in the same location, myself included. So that's another, we don't have a ton of K-12 schools. Most follow the IPS model, or their elementary schools. I have a lot of elementary schools, but we don't have a lot of K-12 models. And there's a lot of research as to why, if you keep a child through an entire school lifespan of the school, that you really get to control, or you really can have the most impact in terms of maintaining consistency, in your education program. So those are two things that are sort of outside factors that I would like you all to consider when you're considering this request. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is in the area, if these two schools close, we run our comparative analysis. The next closest school is a K4, and it's about a mile away. Then there are two K6s that are about 1.2 or 1.3 miles away. Those are the closest elementary schools to this location. There are a couple of K5s and some more K6s located within 3 miles. Now, you know that 3 miles is a pretty big distance when you're a family that maybe relies on certain transportation needs, public bus routes or whatever. Geo Foundation offers transportation, which is another advantage for the school, whereas Indy STEAM did not, and I don't believe Genius did. Oh, did Indy STEAM? They did. I think they might have offered transportation. But at any rate, that opens the door, for families that may not be able to have access to transportation to bring their schools. So 21C has been operating in Gary for 20 years. That's the K-12 up there. And you can see the proficiency, ELA and iRead and math proficiencies here. Obviously, there's room for improvement. There's room for improvement in every school in the state, honestly. But their performance in Gary and their performance here, you can see that they're ranked in the top half of the comparable schools and of the other schools within that 3 mile radius that a student would have a choice to attend. So again, we're not forcing the schools for Indy STEAM or Genius to stay there. It's their choice. They can go wherever they want to go that has capacity in Indy STEAM or enroll Indy, but it would be another choice. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dana and let her talk a little bit more about this, and then I'll be back for questions.
Thank you, James. And Dana, if you would introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Dana Teasley, and I serve as the president of Geo Foundation and Geo Academies. Thank you for having us here today. I'm going to start my brief remarks with apologies and appreciation from Kevin Teasley, our founder. He is not here today because he is currently attending one of 10 graduations he is attending this month. And if you put that together, we have 3 high schools. The other 7 are all colleges that our high school students are graduating from. So he is in Baton Rouge and sends his apologies. Also would like to send appreciation from our board members. Normally, obviously, we would want to have our board here, particularly our board officers. We understand how important that is. Our board members understand that as well. However, our board chair is Ms. Alice Watson. She is the president of Indiana Black Expo. They're a little busy right now. They have a big summer event coming up, so she's a little busy. And our vice chair is Mr. Jimmy McMillan. He is the senior vice president and general counsel for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I hear they're having a party there this weekend. So they send their apologies for the timing, but they are very busy. But we voted as a board, and they definitely would appreciate this opportunity. As James noted, however, we did not plan on this. This really was not our goal. We knew we wanted to talk about a K-12 model. That is what our model is. As James says, it works best. Our general motto is come for kindergarten, stay for college. So that is really where we try to go. But we also knew opening a K-12 right out of the bat would not go well. That's way too much to bite off all at once. So with the support of this board, we opened data 9 through 12. And since we did have space on that campus, we knew of other charter schools that were K6s that needed space and they needed a home. So we were happy to offer that to them, happy to help incubate their new programs. And we were just all very excited for the partnerships. Last year, we realized that created a gap at 7, 8. And so we backed down and asked if we could pick up 7 and 8 as well. And that has gone very well. We were planning on opening with 2 classes, 1 7th grade, 1 8th grade, about 25 students apiece. And we did that. So it has gone well. We were not planning on being K-12 just yet. However, circumstances being what they are, the 2 schools that share space with us did not fully get lifted off the ground. And that happens, we know, and appreciate how difficult these decisions are. That said, as James noted, there are approximately 250 students and a good handful of teachers that you saw care very deeply about each other and care very deeply about where they are. Yes, it would be a different school. However, we would like the opportunity with your support to be able to offer them the ability to stay in their building they're comfortable with, hopefully stay with their teachers, stay in their neighborhood. And also, as James noted, this is not something somebody would normally do. We recognize this is a very fast turnaround. However, because Geo Foundation and Geo Academies have been operating for so long, we're already ready to serve. The facility is there. Our board is there. Our leadership is there, and I can introduce them as well. We have staff ready to go. We don't have to do anything with finances or back office because it's just an extension of what we already have. And I think we do pretty well with that. Ryan can attest to that, hopefully. So we're ready to serve if you will allow us to do that. We would like to give those teachers and those students a safe place to land. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to open it up for questions from the board for either James or Ms. Teasley. Do I have any questions from our board members attending virtually? Okay, seeing none. Oh, yes, please go ahead.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about sort of the recruitment plan. Like, do the teachers who are currently on staff, do the families on staff, are they interested in staying or coming? Because we've looked at a lot of, I guess, charter schools, especially in the area in Indianapolis, and enrollment seems to be a key factor in their financial deficiencies, I guess, and their ability to sustain. And so that's very worrisome. And I know beyond just what the Indiana Charter School Board has done, the mayor's office, Trine, Ball State, they've all opened charter schools recently or are opening charter schools in Indianapolis as well. So could you speak a little bit about the market will, I guess, for the school, for the K-12?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, the answer is we don't fully know. We recognize that STEAM was coming in front of this board today, and that was a completely separate conversation. We have not approached anyone at STEAM. We have not approached any of their families. That was just simply not appropriate. So we don't know for sure. We have spoken to the folks at Genius. They've been very public about their plans and where they are going. They have flat out told, their school leader has told us they do not plan on trying to remove their current student body because they are moving too far away. So we know that those students will definitely be looking for a new home, as will STEAM. So we do have some recruitment plans we have been talking about behind the scenes. We want to make sure we'd like to have we know we can talk to the folks at Genius. We know they'll let us do that. We know we would like the opportunity to talk to the families and the teachers at STEAM. We might wait a moment or two before we have that conversation, but we want to be respectful of where they are as well. That said, the bigger question, of course, is marketing. So we'll simply expand the current marketing that we're doing right now, standard yard signs, direct mail, those sorts of things. We have siblings from our current 7 through 12 that we believe will be interested in having that family community experience. All together, families love that. So we are hopeful that obviously hope isn't a plan, but we do expect that we should be able to get it reasonably off the ground. Do I want to overpromise and say it's going to open fully loaded? No. That would be a foolish thing to say, and you wouldn't believe me, and rightly so. But also, as James noted, the other advantage we do have right now is the financial gap filler that is meant for this type of situation, and that is the federal startup grant. GEO Foundation did earn the federal startup grant this year. It is directly from the federal government. It is not the state government. There is actually an opportunity possibly to apply for the state grant as well. So we'll look at that. We don't know for sure. So we do have the ability to help cover that financial gap for a few more years while the school grows. And that's what those funds are designed for.
Other questions? Any questions from anyone here? No? Okay. With that, we will move to vote. The staff have recommended expanding the charter for GEO Next Generation. Again, this is a school with an existing charter that has already been approved. We would be voting to accept staff recommendations to add grades to that charter.
Can I say something just really short before you start? I know this is not a charter activation. This is not a charter application. However, it still is under our sort of monitoring process. So we will monitor the situation. And if it looks like something is going awry, that they get 10 students, it's something that we can address at the time. We can pull it back if it doesn't look like it's working. So this is not sort of a one and done thing. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So this is not, like everything, anytime there's a change like this, we're going to monitor it and make sure that things are working. Now, as Dana said, they have a big financial cushion, so we're not super concerned. And also because they've been in that area for 4 or 5 years, their signs are already there. So, to a certain extent, they've been marketing for 4 years. They just need to change it a little bit. So, and I will stop.
Thank you, James. We do have one board member who has a professional relationship with the GEO Foundation, and so thus is going to recuse herself. That is our board member, Anna Schultz. So she will not be voting on this staff recommendation. But with that, I would accept a motion to accept the staff recommendation regarding Geo Next Gen.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. I will go through a vocal roll call. Board Member Kramer.
No.
Okay. Board Member Hawkins.
Yes.
Okay. Board Member Jositis.
Yes.
Board Member Green.
Yes.
Okay. I also am a yes. And so with that, the motion is approved. We have just 5 minutes left. We are going to move quickly, right, James? Quickly through staff.
I only
updates.
have an hour of staff updates.
Perfect.
Do we have any staff updates? Oh, we're having, the one thing I would want to mention is we are working on our conference. You know, remember, I don't know if you remember, we had the conference last year. We're having that again this year. We're in the final sort of preparation stages. It is June what? June 13th. And you all are welcome to come. We'll send you more information as we get closer to it. It's going to be at JRPLA
Great.
in their building. So that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you so much. Okay, I would accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Excellent. All right, I have to do this by vocal roll call. Board Member Kramer.
Yes.
Board Member Hawkins.
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Jositis.
Yes.
Board Member Schultz. Yes. Board Member Green.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Well, it was nice to meet you.